Welcome. We are live. You are watching Digging Deeper. I'm your host, Tazeen. We meet here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on the dot, and which is amazing. So I've been really scared. I'm like, oh no, someone's going to be late. But no, we make it. Hi, Eric. That's one of my coworkers. So we make it here 7 o'clock every Tuesday. And this is the 8th episode. You're the 8th person to be on this show, which is really exciting. Season 1 has 13 episodes lined up. Okay. So we're halfway, more than halfway through season 1. Yeah, so I'm excited about it. So today's episode is about self-care, spirituality and self-care as a guide for arts and activism. So that's broad topic. There's so much I'm sure that we can dig deeper and talk about. But before we do that, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? This is Khadija Amatullah. Yes. We're in Flint right now because you're a Flint stone, but not originally.
A transplant. And you have to just imagine how tough you have to be transplanted in Flint stone. So I'm Lady Khadija, originally from California, Oakland, California. I moved here from Atlanta. I was, bred in Cincinnati, and I've been, lived up and down I-75 and
all sorts of places.
Yeah, and I've been in Flint now for almost 6 years.
You're like right in the heart of Flint right now, though.
Yes, right in the heart of Flint. This is what they call the University Corridor. It connects the two major universities here in Flint. U of M Flint and Kettering University. It's a lot that goes on here. It's two of Flint community schools and an early childhood program right here in the heart. And
that's what's up. And you are a poet.
I am a poet,
educator,
an activist, a musician, vocalist. And really, though, I'm really just a simple servant, right? All that other stuff is tools.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I have known you for 4 years now.
Yeah.
And the first time I heard you perform was at the open mic just a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And you were performing, in November.
Yeah.
And she just busted out. I was like, why did I not know about this?
That's part of the reason why this topic is what it is. Because when I've been performing poetry for 20 years, 21 in June, and professionally, I've been writing. Most writers who perform poetry, you start writing as soon as you can start writing.
Yeah.
But I did my first show. I was 18. It was on my 18th birthday.
Wow.
And I turned 38 in June of last year, so 20 years, yeah.
Do you feel like it flew by?
No.
There were years that dragged.
Those 20 years were the longest 20 years of my life. In the beginning, everybody who knew me knew, they knew I was a poet, and that was part of, I think when you're young, or at least when I was young, that was part of my identity. Yeah. Poetry and music, and even though at that time I was an educator too. I think I've been teaching just about as long as I've been performing poetry. But as I've gotten older, and I still consider myself a poet, right? Like, poetry is not what I do. Some poets, that's what they do. Yeah. Poetry is part of who I am. But it's not all of who I am. No. And it's not what I lead with. Because when I was younger, I led with that. Yeah. Poetry and song.
So as the years have passed, how have you sort of decided what you lead with in terms of what defines you and your identity?
I realized that teaching was what I always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And so now, and because I lead with the work now, not talking about the work or, and so it kind of speaks for itself. So education is, when I realized that I was an educator before I was a poet, it made more sense Poetry is a tool that I use, and music is a tool that I use, and activism, all of those are tools to teach and to be of service.
It's so interesting too, because out of the past 8 people who have been here, I want to say half of them are teachers.
Yeah, I noticed.
There's a lot of us teachers, activists, artists. They sort of all one and the same. And I think to be an educator is to be an activist.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
I'm going to say hopefully because hopefully.
Well, and there's a difference. There are people who teach, and then there are educators.
Yeah.
And educators are typically activists, but
True.
Teachers might just be teachers.
True. Well, welcome everyone who's here. Eric's here. Hamida is here from the farm. Welcome. Mm-hmm. So let's jump into the topic. So you wanted to talk about self-care. So let's talk first about the importance of self-care, because a lot of us, I mean, those who are educators, those who are activists, who are artists, we get burnt out, we get drained, we're constantly giving. Yeah. You know, as a teacher, I'm seeing 100 students maybe in a given day, anywhere from 50 to 100, depending on how many sections I'm teaching that day. So you see a lot of people, you're giving of yourself constantly. And then we go home and we're giving. So it's, you know, it's hard to find that balance. So what is the importance of self-care? When you wanted to talk about this, what were some of the reasons why you wanted to bring this up?
The thing that made me really focus on self-care is I realized at the beginning of the year, you know, my mom recently passed away, and I spent a full year taking care of her. And even before that, we worked together, we lived together, we had a lot of common interests, so we done a lot of things together. I realized in January of this year that in my entire life, I've always either had to be committed to, responsible for, or accountable to someone else. And I've never been able to only focus on me and taking care of me. And I realized that I was guilty of feeling guilty about taking care of me. And I was wondering why I felt creatively blocked. And it was because I hadn't been taking care of myself. And I teach preschool. So
more power to you. I don't know how you do it.
And right now I have a class of 23-year-olds. And I think this is the first time I've worked solely with 3-year-olds. And if I hadn't taken time to restore for myself, I wouldn't have been able to
do that.
I wouldn't have made it through my first day.
I don't know how you made it back the second day, to be honest.
Because most teachers, you know, we are on our feet all day. And we are always thinking about other people. We always have to be worrying, wondering, caring about other people. And so in order to do that, you have to fill your cup. You know, and in realizing that I've never actually taken time to focus on taking care of me. And I had some really interesting experiences helping and taking care of other people during that time that kind of like blew up in my face. And it was like the creator saying, no, it's your turn. It's for you. This is you. It's about you. You need to take care of you. Your job is taking care of you. I'm motivated by serving, helping, doing with other people. I've always felt like I work better with a team or a group or a collective of people. And it's difficult for me to focus on my own thing. But this time in my life, it's like, okay, now you have to do for you. You have to take care of you. Nobody can do this but you.
That's true. For those of you who are on, feel free to comment. Feel free to, tell us what you do for self-care, anything that comes to your mind. We're doing this on a live stream forum on Instagram so that we can have this conversation globally. Last time we had people from the UK, from Morocco, from India, from all over the place, which is...
Yeah, technology is wonderful.
It is really cool. It is really cool. So, okay, so you go through this experience, and you feel, okay, now I need to focus on myself, and I need to restore myself. What do you do next? Where do you look? What methods do you use to figure out what you should do to restore yourself, and then what are those things that you did?
Okay, so I didn't have to figure out really what I needed to do. The experiences that I had kind of did that for me. Like I had anxiety attacks, I had asthma, I wasn't sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to do things. And I've had anxiety attacks for some years now, so I kind of have a tool bag of things that benefit, and help with that. So mainly meditation, prayer, and kind of focusing on the feeling, because a lot of people who struggle with anxiety feel like something is wrong with them.
Yeah.
It is not something wrong with you, but there is something wrong. Yeah. So you have to kind of go dig deeper into that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So focusing on what it is, what the feeling is, and kind of letting that spirituality, that inner guidance happen. So meditation, dhikr, prayer, and for me, I have to stay active. Like I have to be doing something. So especially doing something with my hands, because I think if I had been a little younger, I might have been diagnosed with ADD when I was a child. So when I think I'm too, like I probably missed that. Yeah, like I don't think they were diagnosed in my generation with ADD, but I probably was. Like, so I'll have to be doing something with my hands. So making things, crochet, jewelry, music, playing the
Used
guitar.
to crochet or knit those hats?
Crochet,
yeah.
And graphic design, just doing something with my hands.
Yeah.
It doesn't not necessarily product oriented,
but
just the process of actually making something or moving. And then it was too cold to walk, because that's one thing I made in Flint. The snow and ice and the winter was crazy this year. But staying active, and then also being very mindful of what it is that I am feeling. And understanding that a lot of people who deal with anxiety don't like to hear there's nothing wrong. But for me, I have to remind myself that there's nothing wrong. Like, you are okay. There's nothing wrong. Nothing's going to happen.
But I think that's been a recurring theme on these episodes about really reflecting and being in tune within you. What you're feeling, why you're feeling that. And I think part of self-care is not just acknowledging that you're feeling a certain way, but I think trying to dig deeper and trying to understand why you feel that way, which takes some work.
And a lot of times people don't want to be alone with themselves. For a lot of us, we that helping, serving, doing for other people is a distraction from helping, serving, doing
for ourselves.
And especially in our spiritual communities, there's an emphasis on selflessness, and but that doesn't mean that you don't care for yourself. And self-care is entirely deeper than a spa day, getting your hair and nails. Like, a lot of people think that it's about getting your hair and nails done, and no, it's about honoring, understanding, and dealing with how you feel in a moment.
Honoring. I like that you use that word.
Absolutely. And honoring your emotions. Like, this whole, we deal with this generational or dimensional shift right now. We have people that are so angry or confused with this generation of feeling people, right? Because everybody always in their feelings, right?
Right.
In them, but not really honoring them.
Yeah.
That you want everybody to honor and understand how you feel, but you don't. Wow. And it's almost repressive, because that group of people now are dishonoring other people's feelings. Wow. Like, you're allowed to feel what you feel, but I can't feel how I feel.
So then how do you honor yourself? How do you honor those feelings?
In a lot of ways.
And you guys can answer too. Welcome to everyone who's here. If you have any answers or suggestions or comments, feel free.
For me personally, honoring those feelings starts with it's okay. Right? There is nothing wrong with feeling what you feel. You don't have to act on every emotion. Yeah. And what's helpful for me is working with young children, because it is my job to teach them how to process their feelings, how to use their hands, how to use their words and express their feelings. Yeah. I tell 3-year-olds all day. Right. Did you tell them how you feel? Did you tell them how that makes you feel? Did you, so it starts with acknowledging that, and that it's okay to feel that way. And now what?
We as adults have to learn that.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people could have benefited from early childhood experiences, but they were, raised by Nana and Auntie who said, "You okay? Ain't nothing wrong with you."
Yeah. You just bleed a little bit.
Just bleed.
Yeah, you ain't gonna die.
Just won't do that again.
Right. Next time you sit your butt down, right?
Yeah. Hi, everyone who's here. Stay active. Totally agree. Yeah, honoring yourself and telling yourself that it's okay.
Yeah. And feeling what I feel doesn't mean that other people are not allowed to feel what they feel. It doesn't mean that you have to agree. It doesn't mean that you have to accept it. It just is. And if it's something that makes you uncomfortable, then you are allowed to change that. Feelings change.
Yeah. They're states. That's what they are. They're states.
And if it's something like it's okay to change your mind. Like that's okay. It's okay to change how you feel. If you don't like it, you can change it.
Yeah.
And if you want to do something different, do something different. Like we hear this a lot. Choose happiness, right? And a lot of people don't understand that. You can choose. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to be thankful. You can choose not to process negative or dwell in it, because I think we should process all of our feelings, but not dwell in negative emotions. And for me, I'm a believer that words and thoughts are very, very powerful. And I've seen thoughts become things, and I've seen spoken words manifested. So I'm very careful about what I write in my book and the words that I say. I have rewritten poems and songs because I have seen those things manifest in a way that I didn't like. So I'm very careful about...
words have a power.
Yeah.
And when they are spoken, when they are written, they now have life.
Yeah, so you can acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you don't want to see happen, because the thing that makes a thought manifest is the feeling behind it.
Yeah.
And we say a lot of things, like we're very clear typically about what we don't want.
Yeah.
But we're usually not so expressive about the things that we do want. So for me, I've learned that when I have a negative feeling or thought, I have to follow it with something positive. Because for me, that's what causes the panic and the anxiety are those negative thoughts. So,
and you get stuck in that cycle.
And talking myself through, like I don't have a problem with talking to myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have my headphones in my ear while I'm out in the world with no music playing, just so I can talk to myself without people looking at me funny.
But I think it is important to even the act of hearing yourself. I think there's something to say about that.
Yeah, and learning how to process all of these different, some people, you can call them voices, because there's a difference between divine inspiration and, your lower self, right? And we have to learn how to differentiate those voices, those sounds, you know. And for some of us, like, ego can show up in a lot of different ways. For people who may be more spiritually connected, sometimes the ego shows up in self-depreciating ways. Yeah. And it's not so much about arrogance or pride, but it can show up. It's like, you can't do that. You know, who told you you can do? You're not affecting them people. Yeah. You know, like, I worked with a child for one day, and the next day, the boy runs up and hugs my neck. Miss Khadija, I missed you. And I'm like, of course you can do that. You know, of course you can affect change in a child's life.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because a lot of times when we think of the ego, or we think of destructive thoughts or behaviors, we think of pride and arrogance.
Yeah, and self-depreciation is the opposite. Yeah. You know, everything has a polar opposite.
Yeah. Duality of things. I think one thing that you were talking about in terms of self-care, we were talking about self-care, and you were talking about selflessness, and then feeling guilty. And I think one of the things that a lot of us activists feel is, let's say we're feeling some type of way. We're feeling anxious, or we're feeling like we're overwhelmed, or whatever the feeling may be. And then we have projects, or we have things that we're supposed to be working on, or we have deadlines, or we've got things. And we feel guilty. Like, really, really, I've felt this constantly. We feel guilty to say, I need a day. Like, so where I work at Henry Ford College, and we get like 10 days a year that you can take off. And you can, you know, you've got sick days and you've got personal business days. And it, in the beginning, was really hard for me to say, like, I'm not, like, physically sick, but I need a day to recuperate. Like, I need a mental health day. I need a day to just stay at home. Yes. And to accept it. And I've had to, like, talk to coworkers and be like, do you guys do this? Like, I just feel guilty. And they're like, no. You have to take care of your mental health. You have to take care of yourself and take those days.
Taking a mental health day is something that is a new but necessary phenomenon. Yeah. Right. Personally, I feel like if in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, and especially in the 90s, when particularly women worked a lot, when that was like a new thing, if women had taken more mental health days, we wouldn't be dealing with a lot of the confusion and instability that we see in the world today.
You think so?
I think so. I think that we put too much emphasis on grit and perseverance and stick, you know, tough it out, you know, like.
And then if you don't, you're weak.
Yeah. Women have children, right? Like, there's nothing weak about that. Yeah. There's a difference between being emotionally strong, mentally strong, and physically strong. Yeah. I know a lot of very strong, physically strong people who are emotional messes. And they are inflicting emotional pain on everybody they meet. Yeah. And they think they might be tough mentally, but they are hurting people.
I mean, that, I think, is one of the biggest struggles of the modern day way of thinking. Like, to be strong is to be masculine, and to have physical strength, and to have strength over other people in terms of your anger or your assertiveness or, you know, whatnot. To dominate others. And I don't think that's a strength. To be honest, I mean, that's a strength and it's right, but if you have that without the balance of the emotional strength, I don't think that's strength.
No, I agree. I feel like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he is he works in a corporate office for a very popular company, Fortune 500 company, regional manager, and he deals with a lot of people, manages a lot of people, and he came across some research that suggested that nearly 80% of the American public are either diagnosed with some sort of sociopathic disorder or have sociopathic tendencies.
Wow.
80%. So if you're dealing with 100 students every day, 80 of them
80%
don't care about other people. They don't care about, because that's basically what sociopathy is, putting yourself above other people.
That is true. Wow, 80%.
It's like, and when you think about it, that's the type of world we live in. Yeah. So, and that's why it seems counterintuitive, but that's why self-care is important. Because when you are honoring your feelings and your whole self, not just looking good, then you are developing care for self, and that reflects to other people. When you respect yourself, it reflects to other people. Compassion and mercy for self, like that guilt about, because I deal with that a lot. I'm the type of person, if I have too much on my plate, everything will cut. I'll just be like, okay, I'm not doing nothing. Like if I got 3 projects due and only time to do 1, I won't do nothing. That's when I take my mental health.
Too much.
Just cut it all out. Too much
for me to be doing.
So
my sister's on. Hi, Emily.
We have to focus on care. Like really caring, and those things have become so ambiguous.
Well, I think one of the things is if you are an activist, and if you're an educator, an artist, or a person with a spiritual expression, whatever that expression may be, you are used to caring for others. So you know how to care. It's just a matter of, can you take that model that you use with other people, and can you use it for yourself?
You have to, because like you said in the beginning, you'll burn out. That is why we burn out. That is the reason why you have people, and we see it so frequently in the artistic community, especially the mainstream, where you have all of these artists that are having emotional breakdowns. Right. Like, oh, such and such went crazy. She done lost her mind.
They went crazy, or they had to leave, or turn to drugs, or turn to something. But I think that is just a sign and a reflection that your heart is seeking something. Your heart is looking for something. It's just a matter of what that thing is. And finding it fulfilling. What type of, you said that you do meditation. What kind of meditations do you?
So, meditation for me is a very broad kind of thing. Depending on the experience, sometimes that looks like just quiet, just listening to my breath, connecting in my breath, and looking at how I'm feeling. Sometimes it's coloring. I created my own coloring book just for that. It's like, I made a coloring book, Sankofa.
Is it for purchase, or
it's for purchase on Amazon? A coloring book of African prints and proverbs.
Make sure you send me the link so I can post it everywhere.
I will, inshallah. So and that moving, because I gotta be doing something with my hands. And that for me is helpful when I'm like in meetings or out, and I can just open up the coloring book and start coloring. People look and they think, they think I'm not paying attention. Yeah. But really what I'm doing is I'm having an anxiety attack and I don't want to melt down in front of all these people. So
I'm just going to do this.
Yeah. And, otherwise it would be I would have to leave. Because I learned recently that I probably struggled with anxiety my whole life. Many of us probably have, and we thought that we just couldn't focus, or we thought that we were shy, or, and I reflected on some of my experiences in the past, especially doing performances in large crowds of people where I don't know people, and it's not my crowd, because I'm very comfortable on stage. Yeah. But I'm not comfortable in the audience. So if I'm at a show or an event, and if it's not somebody that I really love and want to see, and I'm hearing all of this chatter and I'm feeling all of this stuff, everybody's deal, I have to get up and leave. Like, I would just walk. I remember all of the times that I walked out of a show and just stood outside, and how many times people were mad at me. Yeah. And because I had that option, I didn't realize that I'm in the middle of anxiety attack. And it wasn't until I didn't have that option anymore to walk away. Yeah. And that's like to just remove myself from that situation. And that's when it turned into full-on panic attacks, one of which sent me to ICU for 5 days. Wow. And that was why, because anxiety is a trigger for asthma. And so while I had those other options, I didn't have asthma attacks because I didn't have anxiety attacks. Yeah. But then I didn't have those options, had an anxiety attack. Yeah. And I still walked away that day from a job. I left that job and ended up in Hurley ICU for 5 days. And the doctors, they thought I should be dead. Wow. Like, they really were, they were looking at me like I was some kind of ghost or, angel, or I don't know. They were, people were coming and hovering over me, and I'm trying to figure out, why am I in ICU for an asthma attack when there are people here who are really dying? Or could be dying, and y'all all up in here, nurses hanging out in my room, you the best we had. I'm like, what is this? And it took a while for me to really understand. And a lot of that I didn't understand until this year after my mother passed away, because that kind of triggered a different kind of anxiety. And I was seeing a grief counselor for a little while. And there were some things that it was helpful, but I had to stop seeing her because that grief and anxiety together, when you have somebody that is supposed to be helping you, judging you, it's I gotta get you out of my house.
Well, I mean, therapy in general, you have to find the right therapist. Yeah. Yeah. And that makes a huge difference. There was a period of my life where I was going through multiple anxiety and panic attacks. I had major life change, and it was triggering recurring attacks. But the right therapist can give you the tools to get through that.
Yeah, and that is also a part of that. When you deal with, so there's this idea that religious or spiritual people, there's something wrong with therapy, or you shouldn't need to see.
Just have faith.
Right. Pray it away. It's
gonna be fine.
And I told somebody, well, all you gotta do is just pray more. And I'm like, don't you think
what do you think I'm doing every day to get rid of this, and it's not going away?
I was having a conversation with my cousin, and she was Muslim, and she said, just talking about this very thing, and she was like, don't you think I was doing my stuff for a lot? And it was just right, exactly. Yeah. I am doing that. Yeah. And that's one of the things that helps me to know that I need therapy. Yeah. I need to talk to somebody. Yeah. I need to talk to somebody, one, who's not going to tell me, are you praying?
Yeah. Someone who's a professional. Right. I mean, my sister said, I've heard that before. Anytime someone says that to me, all I do is I respond and say, if you broke your arm, are you just going to pray it away? No, you're going to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
You know, you are going to go to a professional. If you have certain issues, you're going to go to a professional. And mental health is the same exact way.
Yeah.
That to go to a professional, to, you know, it's fine to have that friend or that family member that you talk things through. But I think that we shouldn't devalue mental health professionals and what they do.
And the holistic aspect is important. Spirituality is our soul is the eternal part of our being. But as long as we're here, we need that physical and mental/emotional component.
You have been, I think it's been a while where you've been eating clean and vegan eating. Has that been a part of that process?
Yes. So I was kind of dealing with the anxiety and I was triggering asthma, but I was always congested. And it was just, it's like, I just thought, you don't have to be sick, you know. And I know for me, because I've always had another trigger for my asthma was dairy. And okay, I love cheese, right? Like
some brie.
Yeah, and you know, I like a good lamb chop every now and again, right? I'm not so you know big on the chicken, but I love fish.
Me too.
But all of those things were triggering congestion. And then there's this, because I know that these things is making me congested, then there's this level of guilt, right? Because you know you could be eating better, doing better. And all of that guilt comes from or contributes to both that anxiety.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, another one of those things. I'm not accountable to anyone.
Yeah.
I don't got to cook for nobody but me.
Yeah.
I ain't got to ask no questions. I ain't got to explain nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, why you? And it was easy. Like, it just seemed so natural and on time. It started out for just 30 days because I was always kind of under this assumption that it would be difficult in Michigan because of the weather and the pollution and and all of these things. And then it's so easy to get halal meat, right?
Yeah.
And more easier than anywhere I lived. And I lived in Atlanta.
It's easier here.
It's easier to get halal meat here and easier to get farm fresh. And easier to know who it is that's raising these animals you're eating.
Yeah.
But I just felt like my biggest excuse was, okay, I'm anemic, it's cold, right? And so the winter season was always difficult for me here, especially the first few years. It would be like a chill to the bone, you know. And I noticed that when I was eating meat, I wasn't affected by that so much. And I just thought, oh, that's a cop-out, because when I was vegan before, I didn't have a single asthma attack.
Wow.
I didn't have any anemia diagnosis or any of that. It was like, okay, that's a cop-out. You need to stop playing.
Yeah.
And so I did the 30 days, and it was so easy. Well, the month of January, it was so easy, and it seemed so natural.
How did you feel?
Oh, I felt wonderful. It took me a while to get my sleep patterns regulated, and that wasn't so much contributed to my diet, but that was because I was taking care of a person that was terminally ill, and I didn't hardly sleep at all.
Yeah.
But I had a lot more energy, and I don't really, my body does not really do soy, especially this. And then anything that's genetically modified, I noticed that there's a reaction. Yeah. So I tried to stay away from GMO foods as much as possible. I didn't do a whole bunch of substitutes and all of that.
Yeah.
And then I like to cook. Like, I like to, and that was another thing that kind of helped me. That was one of those kind of meditative, and it was restorative.
Cooking is meditative, yeah.
And it was like, I was having fun. I'm still having fun in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to one of my coworkers today, like, you know, I'm about to start selling plates.
It's this process. Your part of the process is knowing where the food came from, right? If you can go farther if you want to grow it yourself.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that too. I just gotta get my schedule right. Yeah. I wish it was more hours in the day.
But yeah, that is, I would say eating right and cooking your own food is meditative and a part of self-care. And to take out the time to do that. Because one of the things that gets difficult that I've been struggling with personally is meal planning, like meal prepping. And I think that when you're on the go all the time, like I live off my calendar because every day there's like 2-3 things, you know, classes in the daytime and then gigs, rehearsals, performances, doing the show.
And that is the self-care as the guide. And that's kind of where I've been in that. Yeah. Right. So I want to do more. Right. Yeah. I want to go out more. I want to perform. Well, I don't know about perform, but you know, do more shows, travel more. But I also want to make sure I can sleep at least 5 hours. Yeah. You know, like if I get 5
hours,
if I get 5 good hours, I want 7. You know, if I go too long, my body will
8.
Take 12 and not like my body will shut down and it'll take 12 and I'll sleep through everything and people will be banging on the door thinking something wrong. Something happened.
This past Saturday, I slept in. What time did I wake up? 11:30. I normally don't sleep till that late, but my body needed it.
There were times when I would sleep till 11:30, and that would be because I didn't go to sleep until 8.
That's a whole.
So that's what I mean by self-care as the guide. So I recently started a new position, which is actually helpful in regulating my sleep patterns. I'm one of the first teachers in. Yeah. So I get an early start. And the diet, because, you know, being vegan now, I'm in an area where I could probably find something decent to eat.
Yeah.
But I don't like to spend a whole lot of money on food. I don't like to, really don't like to eat out a lot.
Yeah.
So on the weekends, I do my grocery shopping on Friday, meal prep on Sunday. And I think that's the only thing I don't have to stress about.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I wanted to do an event, but I was exhausted. Yeah. You know, it's like, so I take care of those things that I know will make my week easier first. You know, and planning for the week, meal prep, and even, you know, getting my wardrobe together. Like in the morning, I don't want to think about nothing except prayer and grabbing my stuff on the way out the door. And anything else, it feels like extra time, free time. And I don't want to have to like worry about anything. And then when I come home, if I'm exhausted from the day, I can go to sleep because I don't have to worry about fixing lunch or breakfast, or I really don't do meal prep for the morning because the difficulty for me is I don't like to eat the same thing every day. So that's why I do, like, I cook beans, whatever, you know, the things that'll take the longest to prepare, I'll cook those on the weekends, or just in the evening I might put it in a slow cooker overnight just so I'll have it and I can do something quick when it comes time to prepare it. But letting the necessity, basically food, clothes, and shelter, like those are the first things, and taking care of those things first, and then putting in other things, and it frees me up creatively. If I had to choose between Digging Deeper and the Zumba class they got over at DTM, I would do Digging Deeper, right? So, shout out to Sharice. I'll be there next week when they change the day.
I'll give it back. Next week.
Sharetta.
I have a friend who plans all of her 5 outfits for the week on Sundays, and fixes them, puts them each one on their own individual hanger, and hangs them up so she doesn't have to think about it.
Yeah. Now, if I wasn't, because I like to be spontaneous, I would do that if I could, you know. So what I do is when on laundry day, whether that someday every week is different.
Yeah.
When I pull my clothes out the dryer, I iron everything.
Yeah.
I put the outfits together, and then I'll pick whatever I want to wear. Because I don't want to. I'm not just gonna do 5 outfits because I get up on Wednesday and be like, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to wear this on Wednesday, and then I'll be looking for something else.
Yeah.
I
do that too. Yes.
So
changing multiple times.
Yeah.
Or I really liked what I wore yesterday and I just want to wear it again. So that happens too.
So I try to do those like laundry, meal prep. I do that the day I go grocery shopping, the day I do my laundry. I iron or fold because I don't like to iron either, right?
Yeah.
Like, you are absolutely allowed to not iron your clothes, right? You don't have to. Now, I'm not saying you have to be wrinkled, but you know, you change your look neat, change your habits, how you store, prepare, wash, and you don't. I mean, you know, like I'm about making things simpler, easier. I'm not into the minimalist thing. I think people should do, you know, be free to, you know, explore the things that, you know, feed your soul. Yeah. I don't necessarily like to say do what makes you happy because, you know, 80% of people in the world have sociopathic tendencies. So, so you know.
They're like, okay. Because you just said it, so that's what I'm going to do.
But what feeds your soul, what makes you feel good, do what feels right.
What do you do, just because I'm curious because I need help with it in terms of food, what are some things, easy meal preps that you do on Sundays? Okay. Or what types of things do you do, since you like different things each day?
So hummus, what they call Buddha bowls, like I don't, you know, this whole new age thing. Like,
everything is just let's take something and then rename it.
Right, I'm a lot older than people think I am, so a lot of the things that I see from the so-called, because I'm kind of like on the tail end of the Gen X, you know, beginning, like, and I kind of think like a boomer sometimes. Yeah. So it's a mesh of different generations coming in, and some of this, it's just a salad. You know, it's
just a salad.
It's just a salad,
and you're just adding some quinoa to it.
Quinoa or rice, or you know, or a rice bowl. I like to do things that don't require a lot of attention, right? Like so, I cook rice, quinoa. A lot of people say you shouldn't freeze it, but I'll put rice in the freezer in a minute. And I cook all of those things on the weekend. So, and then I'll cook the beans, whatever beans, like it might be lentils, black eyed peas, black beans.
Yeah.
I don't care much for white beans, but I eat them occasionally. I prepare all of those things that will take a long time to cook over the weekend. Okay. And because I do like to cook. Yeah. And I don't mind cooking in the evenings. So I'll prepare like anything curry, right? Like I'll curry anything. Like black beans, not so. They don't taste so good, curry, but curry can make anything that's not sweet. Anything savory, curry makes it better.
Basically, just throw in coconut milk.
Curry and coconut milk, yes.
Good to go.
And some onions and some garlic and
pretty much anything.
Right. Let it
Any
simmer.
vegetable you want.
Yeah, and you can eat that for a week. You know, and then so hummus, any like quick things. Yes, a salad and a sandwich though, because just like you can put anything in a bowl, you put anything between two pieces of bread with some hummus or some avocados. I mean tahini and avocado.
You posted this one thing, that tahini sauce with I forget what it was, but you said you liked it. It was a tahini dressing.
The ginger apple.
Yeah. I need the recipe of that because you posted
also the granola.
Oh yeah, the granola that I made, or
with the berries.
Oh yeah, that's just regular whatever granola you like with fresh berries and agave. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I guess that's one of the things that's really easy then about food and taking care of yourself is if you make multiple things that you can mix together in different proportions.
That's it. Because I look at some of these meal prep videos on YouTube and I be thinking like, okay, first of all, that's not enough food for me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
and second,
Like 2 things of asparagus.
right, and who wants to eat a platter of rice and a spoonful of sweet potatoes and kale every day?
Yeah, you gotta spice it up.
Yeah, so I'll put like and the thing about greens, especially like 'cause a lot of people, I like the taste of vegetables.
Yeah.
Some people don't like they gotta cook it till it's dead.
Yeah.
But I will put green vegetables, especially the tougher ones, kale, collards, in a bowl with some vinegar or lemon juice and let it, do what it do.
Yeah.
And
then eat that.
And then I might add it to something later.
Yeah.
But and season it however you like. Eat what you like. That's the thing that a lot of people, especially when they go vegan, they want to do what they see other people do. And everybody has a different lifestyle when they start.
Yeah.
For some people, like for a person who ate McDonald's bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches for the first 10 years of their life every morning, it's going to be difficult for them to be vegan and eat,
Just
flaxseed waffles.
Yeah.
Like or quinoa and or chia pudding, and I don't even like chia pudding. Like I don't
either.
Nothing slimy and it's not like I don't like okra. I don't like I wish I liked okra because it's so good for you, but I can't do it.
I made a mean okra a couple weeks ago, and you said you didn't like okra, but you like that.
Did you? Are you? Because some people can cook the slime out. I don't know how to do that yet.
The slime was out.
The slime was out. I just cooked it with tomatoes.
Okay, yeah, maybe that was the kick. Well, I'm gonna have to get that recipe because I think
a bunch of tomato, onions, garlic, and tomatoes.
Yeah, because that's the thing about okra I don't like is the slime.
Yeah.
But yeah, eat what you like.
Yeah.
And that's you find the things, and that's why experimenting in the kitchen and making those things was so important for me.
Yeah.
Because I hated black eyed peas when I was a kid.
Really?
I've eaten black eyed peas every day for the last week and a half.
And you've been happy.
And amazing. Like I cooked it with some curry and coconut milk. I put it in a Buddha bowl.
A healthy, regular bowl.
Salad.
Yeah.
With some spinach.
Oh.
And spinach and spinach, beets, pickled beets.
I really love beets.
Yeah.
And my mom started cooking more beets. She didn't really cook beets when we were younger, but she started cooking it Desi style. So she did this Pakistani styled beets. I still have to get the recipe, and it was so good.
Yeah, the thing about vegetables, especially root vegetables, some of them you can grate up and you don't even gotta cook them.
Yeah.
Beets, turnips. Yeah, I don't really like turnips though. But yeah, find what you like and experiment with it.
Yeah.
I love chickpeas. I can eat chickpeas
Same
every
here.
way.
I could eat chickpeas every day. I had chickpeas today.
Hummus. And then tahini, right? Like sesame seeds and sesame fat and sesame paste. You can put tahini in anything.
Yeah.
Sweet or savory. And, I can put tahini in anything. Yeah. But yeah, you have to find what you like and then kind of let that, again, self-care as a guide for
and test things out. If you don't like something, don't force yourself to eat it.
Yeah, in everything, in our religions, in our diet, in these activist communities, too many of us want to be like whoever we think the person that's doing it right. We want to be like them and do what they do.
Yeah. And then we judge ourselves when we don't live up to that.
Right, but the thing about us all is that we were all very unique and individually created, right? Very differently. And that was by design. Yeah. And we don't have to change that.
And no, you don't.
So.
That's one of the things. I go to a yoga place, Starseeds. Shout out to them because she's on. And she's going to be on next week's episode. Okay. But one of the things that she talks about is don't judge yourself. Don't try just because the instructor is doing a certain move in a certain way and you can't get that position. Or your body is not as flexible. Accept that your body is where it's at right now, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of self-care too, is accepting
Absolutely
where you are,
mm-hmm.
because it's a journey, right? Life is a journey. You're going to be in a different place every single day, every single year.
And if it don't fit, don't force it. And that's the thing. That thing right there is what I learned. I learned that in the yoga class about honoring yourself, or was able to really internalize it.
Yeah.
You know, and accepting who you are and what you can do, what you're capable of. Yeah. And that can change.
And that can change, absolutely. We have a comment. Regarding depression, do you encourage or discourage people to talk about what depresses them?
Personally, it depends on who you're talking to.
Yes.
You have to talk to somebody that will acknowledge, because sometimes people do need other people to validate what they feel.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think people should need that, but the reality is that sometimes people do. And you should talk to somebody who will be non-judgmental in a free and loving space. Mm-hmm. And sometimes speaking that out in a way, it can help you through it. But just be careful not to speak things over your, like, negative things over your life, over yourself. You know, if, you know, okay, it's not enough sun outside today and I'm depressed. Okay, no, you might be experiencing a vitamin D deficiency. Yeah. You know, and try not to say negative I am statements. But do acknowledge what is going on. Yeah. Speak the truth, but don't speak negativity over yourself.
So maybe then a guide would be, I feel X, and then follow it up with a positive, but I am Y.
Absolutely.
No. And I think it's important too. I mean, I was definitely a personality that doesn't talk about any feelings, don't want to talk to anybody about what's going on, and I feel like 5 years ago, I finally started opening up to not everyone, just people you trust, you know.
People who care about you.
People who care about you and can give you the right type of advice and the right type of comfort. And it made a huge difference in my life. How many minutes do we have?
We should wrap up
Okay.
now.
One last thing before we wrap up. You said the artist as a spiritual guide or vessel for spiritual ideas. That was one thing you wanted to talk about.
So a lot of us, and I've had these experiences with people who I've shared with. And I remember the first time I heard it or witnessed it, I got this long email from a friend of mine with his diatribe of why Stevie Wonder was the reincarnation of the Christ.
Okay.
I didn't hear that.
And it was so long. It was probably maybe 10 printed pages with footnotes from songs and the things that, like, and I thought that, and I started to reflect. So you have these artists like Bob Marley, even Prince to a certain degree, how people will take these artists as guides or,
maybe deities.
Yeah, in some cases. So unfortunate, but and I've had some experiences. I remember the first time I was doing a show. It was an open mic I used to host, and I had a artist friend of mine pull out a notebook, and he started reading back things that I had said.
Yeah.
To him, like, he was on stage and he was like, "You remember when you said?"
Over the years.
Yeah, over the years, and like writing it down.
Wow.
The way that people take notes in the class, and I thought it was so frightening.
Yeah.
Because really, I'm just a simple servant. You know, like I'm not. I share my experiences, what I witness, what I'm inspired with or by. Yeah. And I'm no different than anybody else. And so, as artists, and I've seen this happen in the activist community, where they take these people as, like, they can't say anything wrong, they can't do anything wrong, so much so to where they get into arguments and fights. And I mean, do you know how many people are arguing right now on Facebook about whether Tupac was a saint, right?
Yeah.
Or
and you know, I'm gonna say it's not even with artists, but with anyone, even in spiritual traditions, like this sheikh or this yogi or this so and so. And it's interesting because I mean I do believe that, you know, there's such a thing as spiritual saints, but at the same time we have to be wise.
Right. So it's twofold. So as an artist and an activist, we have to realize I don't want to say power or control, but we have to realize the influence.
The influence, yeah, good word.
That we have with people, the people that we share with, that we touch, that we experience. And then we also have to understand that we are all human people, and all of us have this connectedness to divine source. We all have it.
Yeah.
The difference is how we might connect or tap into it. You know, and we're all capable of that.
Yeah.
And like you said, we have to be wise.
We have to be very wise about it. You have a beautiful soul, Lady Khadija.
Oh, thank you.
She does, indeed. Any last thoughts that you want to share before you perform?
So the thing that I'm dealing with mostly is, and this idea of self-care, is the releasing, right? This is every week I have this kind of major experience, and this last week has been releasing. Let it go.
Yeah.
Anything that is not feeding your growth, anything that is holding you back, anything that you're holding on to that is killing, you know, whatever it is. Toxic relationships, too much stuff, toxic thoughts or ideas, let it go. And let it go and open the way for, you know, the good things to come. Like, you got to clear all of that negative, bad, unconducive stuff out. Yeah. So, you know, out with the old and in with the true.
Yeah. In with the true.
Yes, indeed.
I like that. Letting go. I think if it's too hard to do it every day, maybe this is something that I'm going to start practicing to do at the end of the week. Write down the things you want to let go of, or think of the things that you want to let go of. Yeah. So that the next week you're not going into that week with those things.
Right. Last year I had I released a lot of things, but it was one particular toxic friendship, very, very toxic friendship, that I just cut off. And I didn't, like, it was a lot of things that led up to it, but I just cut it off. I didn't explain. Yeah. I didn't.
You're just like, bye.
I didn't worry about it. I still care about her. I still love her. Yeah. But I just let it go. And I noticed that one incident, and that was before my mother passed away, but even that, my relationship with her changed. Like, I saw her letting things go. I saw her healing, repairing, forgiving.
The person you let go of?
No, my mother.
Oh, your mother, okay.
And other everything else just kind of started falling off. Yeah. I started this grand purge that I'm doing right now in my home. That started about this time last year with that friendship. That was like, let it all go. Get rid of the things that are not feeding your growth.
Be conscious of it and let it go. One last comment. Let it go for good things to come.
Indeed.
That is truth. Well, would you like to share with us?
So I have one poem. I think it is fitting for this platform. It's called Faith Portrait.
Faith Portrait.
I have to read it because I don't memorize like I used to.
Do what you gotta do. No judgment.
Picture this. Clouds burst, sun showers, raindrops from the smoke and smother. Like the angels, humanity, and mankind created by the Divine Father Mother, merging into a mercy ocean, a unity sea, one body. No more us or you and me. annihilated into ahad, only one, the divine absolute oneness, because unified this divine spiritual journey is. It's all one because we are all one. Unique and individual divine manifestation of the all one. Created so it can be known. Made us unique and individual so that we may be known and know each other. One portrait speaking more than 1,000 words. Spoken into existence with one word. Be, and it is. So we worship, praise, and glorify who? The non-manifest but ever-present, absolute unknown that made us so it can be known. It is ever-present. Every breath is a gift that you can be known, so be present. How? By learning to listen and distinguish divine inspiration from the whispers of the four spiritual enemies. But that's just the frame. There are details to this painting, all equal, just not the same. This is an action shot, precisely positioned, and every stroke perfectly placed, developing the negatives into positives and transforming fear into faith, healing and changing and transforming the world, listening, loving, living, and learning. Answering the calling by the maker, creator, and fashioner of the worlds. By bringing people together in our greater common spiritual journey. It's faith portrait.
What a portrait is. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, just, be at peace.
Be at peace.
Be at peace.
And be a source of peace.
Indeed.
Be at peace and be a source of peace. Thank you so much, Khadija, for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thank you guys for coming here.
Yeah. I'm appreciative of everyone who is joining us and listening in and had comments. It's always a fun journey to talk to different people and learn different perspectives and dig deeper and really learn what we can do to better our lives and better the lives of those around us.
Yeah.
And I think taking care of ourselves is very important in that process.
Yeah, that's phase one.
That is phase one.
Restore and
Bless
then
you too.
repair. Indeed. Yeah.
Well, that is all for today. I will see you guys next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Next week we're talking about a very heavy topic, decolonizing yoga.
Oh, I'm there. I am so there.
So it's very, very deep topic.
Yeah, I was looking at those. I used to subscribe to Yoga Journal. I was looking at those covers.
So we are going to be doing a lot of digging deeper next week. Yeah. So I will see you guys then. Until then, peace. Have a wonderful week. Let go.
Thank you.
Breathe.
Yeah, and I'm at ladykhadija.com. So.
Sounds good. I will post everything on my Instagram, on my website, on my Facebook, on YouTube, all of that stuff. So if you are watching this, everything is there. So thank you guys. Peace.
Peace.